Working 18-hour days, I slipped and I fell. Windows up and hit me, I had to change well. There's no way to sustain it, you'll crash and burn. Will not be able to work and no way to earn. Change well, and then you can leave. Change well, and your kids you get feed. Turn your life around for the final bell. It's now or never, you have to change well. It's now or never, you must change well. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Change Well podcast. Now today we're going to talk about a very important thing for wellness. It is managing expectations. Managing expectations helps you to have healthy relationships and also paves the way for successful outcomes in both personal and professional settings. Proper management and understanding of expectations of others increases their satisfaction related to the services and products you provide them if you're in a business. Setting clear boundaries on others' expectations of you is what makes you make sure you're taking care of yourself. So by setting realistic and achievable goals and expectations, you can reassure yourself and others, fostering a sense of security and balance. To sum it all up, managing expectations is a balancing act. It's not a science, it is an art. Those who do it skillfully with themselves, clients and colleagues, family and friends, seek to underpromise and overdeliver. This approach maintains wellness, maximizes talents, and fuels ambition and a drive for excellence. I understand the difficulty of managing expectations all too well. And let me provide some insights that I've gained over the years. The first thing is about managing expectations of yourself, and that's the most important. This sets the foundation for interacting with others and approaching your work and personal life. When you are managing your own expectations, here are some considerations to keep in mind. First, set realistic and achievable goals and expectations. It would be best if you made a goal that is within your current capability to achieve. Push to the edge of that capability, but don't overdo it. You can always have a stretch goal, but do not bank your expectations on achieving that stretch goal. If you hit the stretch goal, that's all gravy. Here's an example from my weight loss journey. I had my upcoming West Point class reunion that was about 9 months out. I made a goal to be within 15 pounds of my steady state weight since leaving the Army. Not the weight I was at the Army after I had left the Army. It was about 220. This goal would require losing just under the average of 2 pounds a week, which was the anticipated weekly weight loss of my program at that time was Weight Watchers. I then had a stretch goal of hitting my steady state weight. At the reunion date, I hit my first goal, but I didn't make the stretch. But I was thrilled and fitting well with my classmates. I didn't look too bad. Everybody had gained a few pounds. I was still over the Army weight, but I could shift to my stretch goal after going to the reunion. The second thing when you're managing expectations for yourself is avoid catastrophizing. What is catastrophizing? It's when you worst case everything. You think in your mind, if I try this, I'm going to fail, blah, blah, blah. And there are two ways to catastrophize. The first way is that you think you can't do something, so you set your expectations too low. The second way is you catastrophize and it overwhelms you. You anticipate the consequences of missed expectations, even though you may really be on track. Let me give you an example on this, and it really impacted my mental health. At the beginning of my sophomore year at college, I was on a roll academically. I was getting straight A's, left and right. I think the first 10 tests I took were straight A's. And my streak continued until I was about 2/3 through the semester. And then I received, lo and behold, a B+. Now, I could have taken this, but there was one gigantic grade that was out. And it was this thing called the Soch paper. Anybody who ever went to West Point knows about it. It is the trauma of anybody that can't write. I can write, so it wasn't So bad for me. And it had a massive mandatory word limit, and I was really worried that I wasn't going to hit the word limit. So let me tell you what I did. Once I got the B+, I thought I couldn't pass the social test. I thought I was going to get a D or an F. So I revised the paper 20 times. I couldn't get out of my mind. I started neglecting my other duties and became depressed. So finally I ended up seeing a counselor, and after hearing my stressed out story, they told me something that resonates even to today. They said, Cadet Greer, you have set your expectations too high. Sounds simple, but that's exactly what I needed to hear. I thought I was going to just have to get A's all the time, and I was stressed out that I couldn't do it. And then he asked me, what do you think you're going to get on this paper? And I said, there's no way I'm going to get anything more than a B-. In reality, when I finally turned into the test, I received the highest paper in the class on the paper, which was it wasn't an A, it was an A-. It was pretty hard grading on social. After all that catastrophizing, it was not helpful and harmful to my health. I was stressed out. I neglected myself. I was depressed. I got about, less than 5 hours sleep for a month. So when you're setting your expectations, avoid catastrophizing. Catastrophizing can cause you to set them too low and stress out if you set them too high. So just avoid that. The third point about setting goals for yourself: do not overcommit and set boundaries. The previous story shows a little bit about this. I just spent all my time writing the paper over and over and again. When setting a goal, set boundaries on how much you will do to achieve it. Don't spend all your time to try to get the goal. If you hit your time limit or how much you're going to give, just say, hey, that's good. So let me just tell you, after I got through this whole stressed out thing about testing, and I figured out, hey, I could have done with a lot more sleep and a lot less worrying, I came up with a mantra, and it was called well rested, well tested, never bested. And I've kept that mantra to today, even in work life, right? The key is don't catastrophize and don't overcommit beyond your boundaries of what you want to do. The last thing, adjust your expectations as you learn. The excellence of today is the mediocrity of tomorrow. So don't be stagnant. Also, your interests and goals may change. So it is important that once you meet your expectations, you need to put on your work boots, roll up your sleeves, and drive to the next goal. Now let's talk about managing expectations of clients, stakeholders, and supervisors. It might sound weird that I'm grouping these two together, but it really isn't. First, expectations may differ between multiple client stakeholders and in this matrix organization that we now have between different supervisors. Likewise, the expectations of shareholders need to be considered when you're working with business. So you always have two bosses, right? Or two clients. You have the client you're working for and your shareholders, or you have the boss you're working for and your shareholders. Your shareholder is kind of like a dual role. Second, you work for your clients and your supervisors. Lastly, expectations need to be adjusted as new stakeholders or supervisors are introduced. So when you're dealing with your clients and your supervisors, here are some considerations to underpromise and overdeliver on expectations. First thing you need to do is document the expectations. Up front, resolve any differences between competing expectations. This is especially important after winning work from a client or being introduced to a new supervisor in a matrixed organization. You have to document what the expectations are and then compare it to what other expectations are of the multiple stakeholders and bosses you report to. Once you figure that out, if you see they differ, you need to hit it head on. Don't wait around. Say, hey, it looks like you have this expectation of me. This stakeholder has a different one. How are we going to resolve this? And then once you get it all written down, make sure you get it signed off. Everybody understands that you clearly understand the expectations on all sides. Once you get them all written down, you got to make a plan for meeting those expectations. For example, if you're building a deliverable, develop a deliverable expectation document for each component of the project. Likewise, document your goals and objectives to your boss and just say, hey, I've seen your expectations. Here's what I think my goals are, and have them bless them, right? And so that you know exactly what you're aiming for. Lastly, once you get them all defined and verified and resolved between competing expectations, you need to be transparent and communicate early and often. Let's say you can't hit an expectation. You need to say that. You said, hey, you can have this expectation of me because of this or such and such, or this competing expectation. I'm not going to hit it. And then if things change, you need to change the expectations as the project changes. Let's say something over time has changed with the project, and now you either have a new stakeholder or a new direction that you're getting. You have to document that in the change management process. You need to do this early and often. Just think about this. Let's say you deliver a project. It doesn't meet expectations. That's like a child waking up on Christmas Day, expecting a new toy and getting a bunch of socks. Well, I kind of like socks. My kids will tell you I always ask for socks, but not a child, right? So bottom line is communicate what you think the expectations are, and then validate them along the way and show what you're doing to meet them. And that way you won't be delivering on Christmas morning with something that was totally not wanted and not expected. The last thing is the most important: managing expectations of family and friends. Nothing is more damaging to relationships with a family member or a friend misses unfulfilled expectations. Let's take an example. A child will remember forever when you missed a sporting event, especially if it's very important to them, that you promised to attend. Friendships will suffer if you fail to show up after you promise to help them move. Just take that. Hey, I'm going to show up and help you move out of your new old house and into your new one. And you don't show up because you got some meeting. That's going to not help the friendship. So here are some considerations to help you keep your promises with family and friends. The first and the most important one is only promise what you can deliver, but make every effort. And this means make your yes, yes, and no, no. If you're going to say you're going to do something, do it. And don't go to that work meeting under pressure that your boss is telling you to go to. You know, you're going to have a bunch of bosses over the years. You're only going to have your family that stays with you all the time. So boss is going to forget when you miss the meeting after that. And if he doesn't, you just go get a different job. But your child is not going to remember that. I remember, the times that I didn't fulfill a promise to my kids, and when my dad didn't or mom didn't fulfill a promise with me. So above all, if you commit to an event of a family member or friend, do not change under pressure from work. They'll remember your broken commitment while your boss will forget it the next day, or if he doesn't, you get another job. Second, set boundaries for self-care. It's just like when you're on a plane, they always tell you to put your mask on first and help other people's. You can't be the best friend or family member if you don't take care of yourself. Find time for fitness and prayer or mindfulness practice, and tell your family the time you have blocked out. For me, I block out from 5 in the morning to 7, and I call it body and soul time. Everybody knows, don't mess with me on that. Even the dog, he kind of like hunkers away with me when I'm up in the morning and doesn't deal with me because he knows that's my time. You can't help others if you're not doing well yourself. I know this because people have seen the positive results for me from doing this, focusing on self-care. Third, the best thing to do is make a joint schedule, and on top of that, make a mission statement, either for your family or for the group that you're in. A mission statement that includes the expectations of each community member is an excellent tool for documenting each member's expectations and the group's common purpose. On the flip side, if you got the schedule out there, a common schedule, everybody knows when everybody else is available. And they'll know, like, hey, Dad has a big meeting on this day. Let's try to figure out how we can adjust to that. Or on the flip side, there's that big meeting, but Dad chose to be with me. And that's the most important thing. People will remember if you miss something. So no job, no work is more important than family and friends. And if you follow these rules for expectations, you will change well. And until next time, change well.